Hey, it's me, Vicky Marie. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in this crazy world we're living in. Now then, first of all, thank you so much for watching, just for being there and watching. But please click subscribe if you're not already subscribed, completely free. Don't forget to like the video and share it if possible. And sometimes you can do what's called hiding, which I don't really understand how that works. But thank you to anyone who's done any of those kind of things. In this video, we're going to talk about the latest in the Nancy Guthrie case. Let's have a picture of Nancy up. Um, Now, unfortunately, there's a lot being talked about, but still nothing official from anybody. We've got we've got retired FBI agents coming out of our ears telling us what they think's happened. And it's ironic, really, because they're all contradicting. You've got some think she's gone over the border to Mexico. You've got others that think that she's local and roundabout. You've got others that think it was a burglary gone wrong. You've got those who think it was some sort of organised kidnap gang. Oh, you've got theories coming out of your ears, but what we haven't got is any official. We've got no arrests. We haven't got Nancy's body. Nancy's body hasn't been found, presuming that she is deceased, because it's been over 100 days now. 84-year-old woman not in the best of health, stolen from her bed in the middle of the night, blood on the porch. I mean, seems very unlikely. 104, I think it is, 104 days later, that Nancy could be still alive, which she may be. We have to, suppose we have to hold out some positivity. And then the whole sort of SHIT show going on with this guy, the Sheriff Nanos. He's the sheriff of the Pima County Police Department. He said lots of sort of irresponsible things. And I think he said another irresponsible thing in what we're going to about today, which is an interview they've done with People magazine. And one of the things he said in this interview is he is not in contact with the Guthrie family anymore. That it's only the FBI now that are dealing with the Guthrie family. So what's that about? Why is that, do you think? Because don't forget, Sheriff Nanos, he cleared the Guthrie family and their spouses, or he said that they were clear. A lot of people, aren't taking any notice of that. They're still thinking that it's something to do with, especially Tommaso and Annie. They are the prime suspects, aren't they, in the eyes of the public? And simply, I think, because they were the last people to see Nancy. She was at their house. Tommaso gave her a lift home. So there's been lots of, and their house was searched by the FBI and photos were taken and luminol was used and their car was seized and it was kept for days and days, weeks. So they're sort of very much in the public suspicion. Whether they're in the FBI suspicion, I don't know. This is Savannah, the famous daughter. She's gone back to work now. Her career's taken off. She's been given a new show. You could say, if you're going to cast aspersions on anyone, why is it always Tommaso and Annie? Why not Savannah? Well, why not Cameron, her son? I mean, I'm not saying that any of them are responsible. What I'm saying is, we don't know who it is. So Sheriff Nanos was a bit premature to clear the family and their spouses, in my opinion, because we don't know who did it. So until we know who did do it, we don't know who didn't do it. That would be my opinion anyway. But I'm not, I'm not a police person. But I've watched enough true crime to know that until you know who did it, everybody's in the frame, especially people who are close to the victim. Anyway, this is what we're going to talk about, this interview that Sheriff Nanos has done. Yeah, it's funny because he's not doing no official press conference since the first couple of weeks. Was it the first week even? He never stands up alongside the FBI. He's only ever done that once. Of course, there's all the rumours that he doesn't get on with the FBI, that he excluded them from the investigation. That's what Kash Patel said, the director of the FBI. And then you've got Nanos comes back and he said, no, that's not true. We've worked with the FBI, right from the beginning. That's what Nanos says. So it's like, who do you believe? Do you believe Sheriff Nanos? Or do you believe Kash Patel? I mean, to be honest, they're both a pair of liars, in my opinion. I mean, Kash Patel. Sorry, just looking at him, you just like, talk about the eyes being the windows to the soul. So you're stuck between a rock and a hard place, really, if you've got to choose between whether you believe Nanos or you believe Kash Patel. Anyway, I'm going to say hello to you all. I want to thank you all for watching, liking, subscribing. Special thank you to people who are members. Thank you. Special thank you to those who buy me Ko-fis, send me PayPals, etc., helping with support my channel that little bit more. Thank you so much. And those of you send me emails, leave nice comments. We're following a few quite difficult cases at the moment. I suppose, at the end of the day, a true crime channel, none of them are going to be easy cases. Particularly we've been following the case of Preston, Davy, a little baby in the UK that was, anyway, we won't talk about him in this video. But this is a big case that we've been following. I've been trying to stick with it whenever there's any news. But, there's a lot of speculation. So this is what we have to remember. It doesn't matter who's coming on, whether they're retired FBI agent or whether they're retired detective, on all these podcasts. Everyone's talking about this case. And everyone's got their theory, but they are only theories. We have to remember that. I saw just yesterday somebody was saying, a very popular streamer was saying, that somebody had rented out Nancy's casita. She had like a granny flat, I suppose you'd call it, or an extra house, that she was renting out for Airbnb. Apparently, I don't know that that's true. This is what streamers and that's saying. But again, no official confirmation of that from anyone. Anyway, then this person was saying, oh, well, apparently somebody owed Nancy money from that. And so I asked them what the source was. Where's the source of this? And they've never answered. So, sometimes you just think, but people are creating rumours just for something to talk about, I don't like doing that. I mean, obviously we all have our opinions and we're going to talk about our opinions and what we think happened to Nancy. Where is she? Everybody's got their view, but nobody's got any proof, so we just have to remember that this is speculation. Till somebody is arrested and we find out what did actually happen, we don't know what happened. We're just speculating. And I include myself in that. So let's go. I mean, I do believe, so let me just, before I come and say hello to those of you who are in the chat, and thank you for being in the chat, I just want to give this is totally my theory. This is, again, no proof. Just speculation. I think the whole kidnapping was staged. I don't think Nancy was ever intended to be kidnapped. I think it was made to look like a kidnap, to muddy the waters. I think Nancy was, let's have a look at, I think Nancy was taken and this is just my opinion. I hope it's not true. But I think she was intended to be killed. I don't think she was supposed to be kidnapped. I think the kidnapping thing is just to cover up for the real motive. I think all this with the guy at the door and the gun down his trousers, and I think it's all just staged to make it look as if kidnapping was a motive. That's my opinion. And I think money was involved. Somebody that owed money to Nancy and didn't want to pay her back, maybe someone who just had a grudge against her. Nancy was it's somebody's way. That's my opinion. She was in their way for whatever reason. It could be because of money. It could be because of anything. And this whole thing is about removing Nancy because she was in the way one way or another. And then the kidnap thing, in my opinion, again, my humble opinion, and I could be completely wrong, was just to cover that up. You know, when you cover up the real motive, I was watching, another true crime podcast. I watch so many of them about all sorts of crimes, but somebody did that deliberately. You know, what's the best way to cover up a crime? Try and make it look as if the motive was completely different from what it really was. You know, if you make a crime look as if, I don't know, a robbery gone wrong or a kidnapping or whatever, but really the intention was to kill that person. And that happens so often. So I think that's what's happened in this case. I do think the case will be solved. God knows when. Every day I'm hopeful, but yeah, and could be to do with the family. But one thing I do think for sure, whoever this person is, they felt comfortable around Nancy's house. You know, they don't look panicked. All this with the camera, hiding the camera and this, that and the other, I think it's all just for show. The house was immaculate, apart from the blood on the porch. So maybe Nancy never even got back to that house. It's never been treated as a crime scene, has it, that house? Not this, you know, they treated Annie and Tommaso's house more like a crime scene, you know, going in with the luminol, etc. When you think about that house, the blood left on the porch, the mat left there. Now, it's either total incompetence or they don't think that anything actually happened there in that house, you know. So anyway, maybe we'll find out one day the whole truth. Yeah, that blood, you know, it was Nancy's blood. That's what we do know. It was Nancy's blood. It was been tested. And it did go up the driveway, didn't it? There were a few drips up the driveway as well. But then there's conflicting reports as to whether there was any blood in the house. And initially, I'm sure they said there was blood in the house, or somebody said. Problem is, with a case like this, you get to a point where you can't remember who said what. You know, you can't remember it being said about a lamp or anything, but was that just somebody's theory, or was that actually law enforcement saying, oh yeah, you know, there was blood on a lamp? This is where we are with a case like this after all this time. We don't know. Can't remember who said what. There's been so many things said, so we've got to remember that, you know. I mean, we know that the FBI has been out there questioning people, asking for door cam and this, that and the other. There's got to be lots of video out there, I think. God, somebody, a streamer turns up in that area, the police are there in 5 minutes. Somebody, I know, you know, people are probably a bit heightened now watching for people being around. It's a shame they weren't those neighbours. Shame they weren't so vigilant, isn't it? Nancy went missing, or before Nancy went missing. Now they're hyper vigilant. God, you've only got to look at Nancy's house and the bloody sheriff's there arresting you or telling you to move on. So, you know, and all the streamers, they're back there this week, apparently. So yeah, you know, it's still a case that's holding our interest, because we cannot believe that an 84-year-old woman could disappear in the middle of the night. It's just so bizarre, isn't it? You know, that's what's capturing our opinion, and the fact, of course, that Savannah being famous over there in America on the Today Show, and now she's going to host the Wordle show. You know, her career's really taking off, because at the end of the day, people are going to be watching Savannah, aren't they, to see how she's coping and that, you know. So she's probably a bit of a hot potato at the moment as far as presenting is concerned. And that's a sort of, what's the word? I'm sure she'd rather have a mum back, but, you know, it's like an unfortunate, how can I expect? So it's like a silver in a very black cloud, isn't it, really? So I presume, you know, Savannah, she has a family, but she's probably throwing herself into a career. And, you know, the thing is, Savannah is in the media spotlight, and she always has been. So what's she going to do? Change her career? You know, I know a lot of people are a bit critical of Savannah because of her, you know, can't imagine how she could still be on TV, etc. Got a lifestyle to upkeep. She can't just say, oh, that's, I'm going to leave. A lot of people are critical of her, but then she's not the only one that people, I think the people that are taking the most criticism are Annie and Tommaso, aren't they? Because of the fact, you know, that Nancy was with them the night before she disappeared. So even when Sheriff Nanos came out and said the family were clear, which, as I say, I don't agree with that anyway, because how can they be clear when we don't know who did it? And they haven't got like a rock solid alibi or anything like that. I mean, the thing is, Nancy was at their house. Tommaso took her home. We've not seen anything to even show that Nancy went home. You know, we've got no, you know, did she go? She went in, the garage door opened and closed, but we've got no video evidence to show Nancy went home. So, do you know, this is what I'm saying. It's not as if they've got an alibi because they were off out with other people, and, you know, they haven't. So of course they're going to be suspects. And then, yeah, Savannah, and then Cameron, who not much is ever said about Cameron, the son. So they've showed a united front. I mean, you can't imagine how awful it must be, you know, that your mum's gone missing. Be hard enough, like if you'd got a phone call that day to say that your mum had died, you know, but she's an elderly woman, she's got health issues, and it'd be horrible and devastating to lose your mum even at that age and with the issues. But to be told that your mum is missing and they don't know where she is or what's happened to her. And then, you know, these photos come out of this bloody terrifying, you know, guy in well, is it a guy? Some people think it's a woman. This terrifying person in a balaclava and what have you at the door with a gun, but so you don't know, did he go in the house through the front door? We don't know how he's in the house. We don't know how he got Nancy out of the house. We don't know if there was just one person, more than one person. We know nothing, really. All we know is over 100 days later, this woman has disappeared into a puff of smoke and nobody knows where she is or who took her away. We've had no vehicle identified. You know, how did they get Nancy out of that house? The walking apparently wasn't very good. Anyway, then we've got the ransom notes that I think are just a cover up. But do you know, the FBI, they haven't identified where they came from. You know, so they're thinking that I think they are genuine ransom notes in one way, in that I think they are genuinely from the person who's trying to, who's done whatever they did to Nancy. But I think they're just like a smokescreen. I think they're a decoy. And why has the FBI not been able to trace them? It's just sort of beyond me in this day and age that somebody could send a ransom note and it not get traced. And also, don't forget, they sent the ransom notes to the media. So they wanted attention. And that's unusual. The kidnappers normally don't want attention. They just want their money. They take their victim, they ask for the money, they normally ask the family, they normally tell the family not to approach the media. And they either approach the family or sometimes they'll approach law enforcement. But it's unheard of, really, for them to approach the media. The only people, criminals that ever approach the media, they want to be talked about, don't they? So that's unusual for a kidnapper. Anyway, so we haven't seen the kidnap notes either. We've sort of been given dribs and drabs of what was supposedly in them, but we haven't seen the text of the kidnap notes, which I suppose is, for any future case that comes up, the police are keeping that under their hats because only the kidnapper would know. Well, not only the kidnapper, because also the media outlet that they sent it to. I mean, they sent these kidnap notes to TMZ, which is a Hollywood gossip magazine. So they definitely wanted their kidnap note to be talked about in the media. It's all very strange, isn't it? Sorry, did I finish off? I can't remember now if I finished off saying hello to people. I tend to go off on a tangent. You might have noticed that. I get my waffle going. So, yeah, I said hello to old hippie. Hi, Tracy. Hi, Pie in the Sky. Hi, Lily. Hope you're all well. Hi, Deborah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Now, it's good that, Deborah, it's good that the FBI are taking their time, or because at the end of the day, when this comes to a court case, which hopefully one will, they've got to make sure they've done all correctly, haven't they? And even Nanos says in this interview that I'm going to read out to you, hi, Daniel, happy Sunday. Even, Nanos says, they want to get it all right, don't they? I still think it's this disconnect between the FBI and Sheriff Nanos. I think it's just plain weird, to be honest, because I think that's why he's not doing proper press conferences. Like, he's doing these individual interviews with different media outlets. But why would you do an interview with People magazine? Why wouldn't you do an official press conference? Alongside with the FBI, and say what you could say and present what you could present. There must be some things they can say and talk about. Can't be everything's got to be dead silent. So why go do an interview with People magazine? Why not do a proper, press conference? It's like he doesn't want to be associated with the FBI, does he? Because he doesn't like them because they investigated him back in 2016. Nanos was investigated by the FBI for misappropriation of funds and that type of thing. It's like, so he doesn't like them, and he's made no secret of the fact that he doesn't like the FBI. And it was a terrible investigation in the sense of, I think someone else who was involved in the investigation took their own life, because they were under suspicion. Somebody else resigned, and then Nanos which we must always clarify, has never been found guilty of anything. He was investigated, but he was not, charged with anything. So, he got a good reason to resent the FBI. But now here he is in this. This is probably the biggest case of his life. He's finished of. It's the biggest massive case, and he's, instead of doing going off and talking individually, isn't he, to different media outlets. And every time he talks the wrong thing, he said the wrong thing in this interview, where he's saying that he is in no contact with the Guthrie family. Why are they not? Is what reason for that? Is they don't want to talk to him. And my camera went off then. Is it because he doesn't want to talk to them anymore? I mean, how do you say to a family who's their loved one's gone missing, "Oh, I'm not having any more contact with you," or have they cut off contact with him? Maybe it's because someone from the family is under suspicion. That quite often happens, isn't it, when people are cooperative initially, and when they realise they're suspicious, they stop being cooperative. That happens as well. I mean, he, from the beginning, they were cooperative. A few weeks ago now, he said that they were. Anyway, let's have a look at it. My this computer is pain in the ass, but anyway, never mind. Let's have a look. We're going to have a. I'm going to read out to you anyway the People magazine, the interview, and let me know what you think. People magazine. It's like it's some sort of. It will be on Ola next. Hello magazine next, or OK magazine. I mean, it's not exactly. No offense to People magazine, but it is a magazine. Don't you think it's a bit what's the word, like, don't you think there's not much gravitas to doing an interview with People magazine? This is a serious case of a kidnapped woman, or what seems to be a kidnapped woman, and whatever it is. But anyway. So the sheriff leading the Nancy Guthrie investigation says focus is on thousands and thousands of videos. So Sheriff Chris Nanos provides people with an exclusive update on the investigation more than 100 days after Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. So there he is, there's poor Nancy. I mean, we have to remember who's it, because there's been a lot of drama about Sheriff Nanos and this, that, and the other, and Savannah, of course, a lot of concentration on Savannah and Annie and Tommaso. Cameron sort of slipped through the cracks, hasn't he? Not many people talk about Cameron. But is it appropriate to go and talk as a sheriff? Is it appropriate to go and talk about a big case? And we have to remember that Nancy, she's the important, got lost, in the drama, the psychodrama between the FBI. I don't know. It's like, where is this woman? Where is she? Anyway, I still think it's inappropriate. And if he's been paid for it, it's really inappropriate. So Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos tells people investigators are focused on analysing digital evidence He says they are getting closer to solving the case. He said that. They're closer to solving the case. And they continue to rely on data, surveillance footage, and forensic science. But no suspects have been identified, and Nancy Guthrie's whereabouts remain unknown more than 100 days after authorities believe she was taken against her will from her Tucson, Arizona home. People detained in the early days of the investigation, one of which was Luke Daly, which I know I keep harping on about it. I don't know, this guy, that interview that he did was so strange. When he did the interview and he was just had so many clothes on, I don't know. I'm going to put a picture of Nancy up so we remember who. Well, if I can, it wasn't working then properly. Oh yeah, great. It's not coming up. Anyway, never mind. Okay. So yeah, no suspects have been identified. So we had the two people that were detained, Carlos and Luke, and then nothing came of it. But we've never been told why they were detained in the first place, and we've not been told that they're cleared either. So authorities investigating the kidnapping of Nancy in Arizona are turning to a growing web of digital clues in the case. This apparently includes thousands and thousands of videos, according to Pima County Sheriff Nanos, who tells people that investigators have focused on analysing digital evidence, DNA, and tips in hopes of identifying the suspect. So remember, the DNA that was, he sent off to the Florida lab, but has now gone to the FBI lab. But we don't even know that it's a hair, isn't it, apparently? But we don't know that hair is from the perpetrator. But, everyone's sort of hoping that will turn something up. But we don't know for certain. That hair might be nothing to do with the perpetrator, mightn't it? Anyway, we just have to hope that something's going to come up, don't we? We just have to hope something's going to come up from the DNA or from, some people are describing this as a cold case. There's no way it's a cold case. Because there's still a load of tips. Literally, it could be tomorrow that one of the leads works out. Anyway, so he said, right now, I think our focus is on the tips, the leads, and the evidence we have in front of us. Digitally, the camera footages, as well as biological, the DNA, and these types of things. So Nancy, 84, disappeared from her Tucson, Arizona home on February the 1st. My God, February the 1st, we're now on the 17th of May. That's how long this poor woman has been missing. It's incredible, isn't it? Really, it's incredible that after all this, anyway. Sorry. So you're out there from intersections and ring cameras that we have to catalogue, Nanos explains. Maybe it's all the white trucks are over here, the red sedans are over there. You've got to have it so when you do find a suspect, hey, the suspect is John Doe, we got him. And now we go and say, well, what else do we know about John Doe? He says the process is methodical. Build the digital map first, then work backward once investigators have someone in which to compare. Now, It's strange, isn't it? Because what he's saying now, he should have done weeks ago. So don't forget, a week or so of the investigation, they detained 2 suspects. But now he's being really cautious. So why weren't they cautious then? Or are they being cautious now because they weren't cautious before? You know, is that why? Oh no, I wanted to show that interview. God, I hate this computer so much. Anyway, at the same time, advances in DNA analysis that could prove critical to the case. So I'm going to just whiz down a bit because I want to get to the bit. There you go. So according to the sheriff, multiple laboratories across the country, federal and state partners are collaborating behind the scenes as technology continues to evolve. When you have the best minds of the country working on problems, I think they're going to solve them, Nanos says. It just takes a while. He says investigators are intentionally moving carefully, even amid mounting public pressure for answers. So maybe it's because they tried to move too quick in the first instance. And maybe he's learnt from that. You know, it was like right from the beginning. You know, maybe they should have gone slow right from the beginning. So maybe that's why they're going slow now. So then he said, now listen to this. Nobody wants to make a false arrest. Nobody wants to falsely accuse somebody, he emphasizes. Well, it's a bit too late for that, isn't it? Because Carlos and Luke, who were detained early on in the investigation, they're still sort of under investigation, really, aren't they, in the eyes of the public? Because we don't know why they were detained, and we don't know why they were released, and hasn't been said they're exonerated. Hi, Kelly. Having a few glitches this morning just for a change. You know what it's like with this computer. Intensified online, so too has criticism over the pace of the investigation. But Nanos says detectives are focused because people want to know, he says, but this is like any other case. Sometimes you solve them within hours or days. Sometimes it takes a long time. And then, of course, there was an apparent rift between the local and federal authorities. And that surfaced publicly when FBI Director Kash Patel accused Nanos's department of not cooperating. So remember the Kash Patel, he went on that podcast show and said that they had a plane waiting, didn't they, to take the DNA to Quantico lab. You know, he had a plane waiting the DNA initially to the FBI lab, did they? Sheriff Nanos decided to send it to Florida, to his pet lab, you know, his favorite lab in Florida. Anyway, it's in Quantico now, so his point. I'm sorry if you can't really hear all. If there's nothing I can do, it's just I'm going to have to start doing these lives on my phone because this computer just never gets better, does it? So he's saying, so Nanos insists it's not true what Kash Patel said. Said the FBI was with us day one. We've always had a working relationship. And he disputed claims that investigators mishandled the scene or delayed search efforts. He said the plane was started immediately, Nanos said, referring to search and rescue looked at. You didn't need a plane to find blood, did you? The blood was right there on the porch. You know, even the Pink Panther, Inspector Clouseau, would have found that blood. It was right there on the patio. Search and rescue looked at the scene and realised it seemed suspicious. Sorry. Of course it seems suspicious. So an 84-year-old woman has disappeared and like the best detective in the world to work out that that's suspicious, do you? So for Nanos, much of the public criticism overlooks the realities of how complex criminal investigations unfold, especially when detectives are intentionally withholding information to protect the integrity of the case. Well, you know, that's not true, because if he came out and did proper press conferences, you know, not chats with gossip magazines, proper press conferences, I think people would understand if when you say, oh, we can't talk about that because that, you know, the integrity of the case. Anyway, so then he deflects attention from himself because he says the sheriff doesn't do the investigation, the team does, he says. There are several people dedicated to this team and they are the talent. Criticising those who are actually out here, touching it, smelling it, handling it, doing the work, that's absolutely shameful. The thing is, people aren't criticising his team and them all. You know, the thing is, I don't think anyone is criticising the team. So in a March interview that aired on the Today Show, Savannah Guthrie was asked directly how her family felt. It's still going, she said, and people have worked tirelessly, and we see that. But we need answers. We cannot be at peace without knowing. So this is, I think, very important. As the family continues to wait for those answers, Nanos says he understands the frustration surrounding the case, while he is no longer directly communicating with the Guthrie family. And he says those conversations are being handled by the FBI. He maintains that investigators remain focused on solving it. Now, you know, I think that's very relevant, isn't it? Why is he not talking? You know, to actually say, I'm no longer having conversations with the family. Why has he even said that? He's so indiscreet, isn't he? Because, of course, now people are going to think, why is he not having conversations with the family? So this was a picture at Christmas, just gone past, just before Nancy disappeared. A month later, she was gone. And this is, well, Cameron's not in the photo, but you've got Tommaso with his dog, or he and Annie's dog. Got Annie, their son, and then you've got Savannah and her husband and their two children, all dressed in the same Christmas pajamas. So they must have all got together for Christmas. You know, it's a lovely photo, isn't it? It's a beautiful photo, beautiful family photo. You know, everyone looks happy, but, you know, we know from social media it means absolutely nothing, really, does it? So I'm not sure why Cameron's not there. He mustn't have been, you know, I don't know where it was taken. I mean, presumably it was at Nancy's house, but it might have been at Annie and Tommaso's house. So anyway, it's a lovely family photo. It's so sad, isn't it, to think that there they are all smiling, and then just a month later, Nancy would disappear into a puff of smoke. It's quite scary, isn't it? It's quite scary when you it's quite scary when you think of 1 minute they're all there having this lovely picture taken at Christmas, and then just a month later, the family's just been ripped apart. These kids have lost their grandma. Annie and Savannah have lost their mum, and Tommaso's mum. And from what we can gather, really, I know people are suspicious of Annie and Tommaso, but didn't they all? Savannah said that Annie and Tommaso couldn't have done any more to help the mum. So, it's just don't know. So he said the public in the Guthrie family, of course they're frustrated. Every passing second must feel like 100 days because they don't know. What matters is more moving forward carefully so we don't make mistakes or falsely accuse somebody or make a bad arrest. They've already done that twice. So back in February, the FBI said it received more than 13,000 tips from the public related to the disappearance. And while months have passed without an arrest, Nanos says the flow of tips has not stopped. We still get calls, we still get tips. Even if the tip is from last night, 102 days later, because it might be somebody calling saying somebody in this neighbourhood doesn't look right. It's normally about the streamers, isn't it? We tell our folks here in Pima County, if you see something suspicious to you, call us. Now, their neighbours, Nancy's neighbours, in my opinion, have wasted a lot of the police time by phoning up every time a streamer appears. Now, I understand them ringing the police if it was somebody different, but, they know most of those streamers now. If a streamer turns up one day, and they're there the next day, there's no need to ring the police once you know who it is. Why do they keep ringing the police about the streamers? They're not really, there's not that many of them anymore. So apparently they're all back there this week. So the neighbours will be having kittens, won't they? They'll be having a bloody heart attack. They'll be on the phone to the Sheriff's Department. And then the Sheriff's Department go out there and then that wastes their time. They could, because there's a lot of crime in Pima County. Not only this, what's happened to Nancy, sadly. There's lots of crime. There's a lot of drug crime. There's homelessness. It's near the border. Lots of talk about, crime crossing the border, etc. Probably crosses the border both ways because, I think something we always have to remember, and I see it often again in podcasts that I watch about American crime, a lot of American perpetrators go over the border to hide in Mexico or to go through Mexico to go to other South American countries to hide. It's not only criminals coming over the border to America, there's criminals go the other way as well. Quite often American criminals will go over the border to Mexico. So, that's, I suppose, always going to happen. I mean, we get it a lot here in Spain, even though we're not landlocked, if you like, with Britain, with Great Britain. But every 5 minutes, some criminal from Great Britain is being arrested in Spain. They call it the Costa del Crime. They've just recently arrested someone off the to do with drugs, normally. But, it happens all the time. So, this is a thing with, you have to remember that when people commit crimes and go over the border, it's not only immigrants, it works the other way as well. So, maybe they have taken Nancy over the border and buried her somewhere in a different country. Maybe they have. But it's just another theory, just like all the other theories. Now, you know what my theory is, but also I think Nancy is very close by. I don't think she's got her, I think she's deceased, sadly, but I think her body is close. But you know what? It's such a big area, doesn't matter how close she is, really. It's still a massive area to search. Um, Now, I remember in sort of a few weeks ago or months ago, maybe now, the helicopter was out, wasn't it? Looking for the pacemaker. There was a lot of talk of trying to track the pacemaker, and it was flying around a landfill site and around. Just make wonder, did they detect anything? Because you know they haven't really been out searching, have they? You know, something that does strike me very strange about this case is I know they've said that it's difficult for the dogs to search that area because prickly, isn't it? There's lots of cactuses, snakes, there's all sorts of dogs. But they haven't really searched, have they? Maybe they searched the first couple of days when they were expecting to find Nancy, you know, just there, but they haven't searched since then, really, have they? Or not that we know of, anyway. Also, the other thing that's always struck me as strange is where's the flyers? Where's the reminders? Where's the even from the family? You know, Annie and Tommaso live right there. Why aren't they at the shopping mall every day handing out flyers about Nancy? Because, you know, even though there'll be a lot of people who still don't know about it, you know, not everybody is really interested in true crime. Some people won't have a clue about this case. You know, why have they never done that? Seems like all they've really done is, you know, there's all this just criticism of the streamers who are at least out there raising awareness, whether you agree with what they do or not. Um, why have Annie and Tommaso not out there every day handing out flyers or talking to the local? Maybe they've been told not to news, but Annie and Tommaso have never made an appeal. So I heard on, didn't she, Savannah? I think it was two. But you think Annie and Tommaso, being the local to that area, they could be on the local news making appeals, saying, you know, going on, but you know, I'm just thinking if it was. Thing is about they're moaning. You know, it feels to me it's like they don't want the attention, but there's people out there who've got loved ones missing who would be desperate for this media attention. You know, who think their loved ones aren't, nobody cares about them. They're not on the news. You know, they're not having sort of millions of dollars spent trying to find their loved one. They've not got Donald Trump offering all the services of the FBI. And there's Annie Tommaso right there. They've got these resources offered to them, and they're not appealing. You know, they're not coming on and appealing and out there handing out flyers, etc. It just seems odd to me. And I know you can't say what you would do if it was you until you're in that position, but I just feel that if that was my mom, who sadly is not with us anymore anyway, but if that was my mom, I would be out there every day giving out flyers. Or certainly in the first, it's been 104 days now. Maybe now you would stop. I don't know, but certainly first couple of months of the investigation, you would be out there you'd be talking on every radio show you could, or television news, local news, to everybody, surely, unless you've been told not to. It's happened. And I'm not saying they do, I'm just saying, don't think it's strange. What would you do? If you think about it, if it was your mum, what would you do? You would want as much attention as possible, surely, as much media attention as possible. Not be, encouraging people to ring up and complain every time there's a streamer outside the house. At least while the perpetrator's not found. I mean, someone's done it to her. I mean, this, it's not, I don't know. It's like, this is not possible to be no foul play. This is definitely foul play. They're not going to be able to say it's not foul play. It is foul play. And we know it's foul play because of the guy on the camera with the gun. We know it's foul play. Oh God, it's gone off again. So why don't they want publicity? I think while Nancy's still missing, and while it's not known what happened to her, as far as I can see, you would want the attention, surely. But anyway, they don't, do they? They don't want the attention. Gosh. Where are you, Nancy? Where are you? God. Anyway, so let me know what you think. Why do you think Nanos is not? Think it's just because the FBI, do you think there's nothing to it? Or do you think it's because the family don't want to talk to him? Do you think it's because he's suspicious of anybody in the family? I mean, what are the reasons? In the beginning, they were always in contact, according to him. Then he cleared them of all suspicion. So why now is he not in contact with them anymore? It's his case. He's not giving it over to the FBI. He's still dealing with it. So why would it be, do you think, they're not speaking to him anymore? I wonder. I am trying to get this off now so that I can... I have taken it off now. So yeah, what do you think? And sorry about this computer. I'm still saving up. In fact, I haven't really put out any. I'm going to put up my Ko-fi. So yeah, this is what people, when you contribute towards my channel, it's to go towards this new computer. I was nearly there, and then anyway, there was other problems came up. But yep, need a new computer. This computer, and I'm sorry about that. So it's not been the easiest video to watch. Sorry about that. It's just nothing that I can do about it at the moment. But listen, thank you for caring about Nancy. I'll see you really soon in the next video. And until then, may your God go with you. Bye.